Sometimes the most unsettling stories aren't the ones in horror movies. They're the ones buried in forgotten files. This is one of those stories. It's about a British psychiatrist in the 1960s who started one of the strangest experiments in history, recording secrets of the future right up until the future came looking for him.
So let's just start with the central question of this whole thing, because it's a real doozy. What happens when the person studying a phenomenon becomes the most chilling example of it? This isn't just a fun thought experiment. For one man, it became absolutely, terrifyingly real.
So let's meet our guy, Dr. John Barker. And I want to be clear, he wasn't some kind of mystic or a fringe character. He was a serious, well-regarded doctor, a man of science, of logic, of evidence. But he was also a man who was about to see something he just couldn't ignore. Barker was just tired of all the ghost stories and the "I knew it all along" claims that pop up after every tragedy. He wanted real, hard data. So he did something pretty radical. He teamed up with a big London newspaper to create the Premonitions Bureau. The idea was to get people to report their predictions before anything happened.
Now, the Bureau started logging hundreds of premonitions, and some of them were shockingly accurate. But then, two of his most trusted sources sent in a prediction that was completely different. It wasn't about a public disaster, a plane crash, anything like that. No, it was about him. So you've got to be asking, right, how on earth does a respected doctor get into the business of collecting psychic predictions? Well, it all started with a national tragedy, an event so horrific it scarred the entire country.
On October 21st, 1966, in a small Welsh village called Aberfan, a mountain of coal waste collapsed. It created this black tidal wave that just swallowed a junior school whole, killing 116 children. It was a completely man-made horror. And in the weeks that followed, as the nation was just reeling with grief, something really strange started to happen. Dr. Barker began getting dozens and dozens of letters from people all over Britain, all claiming they had dreamed it, they had seen it, before it ever happened. Now, as a scientist, Barker knew these stories were basically useless as evidence. There's this thing called the retrospection problem. See, after a big event, our memories get contaminated. A vague bad dream you had about darkness and screaming suddenly morphs into a crystal-clear premonition of that specific event. It's not people lying, it's just how our brains try to make sense of things. Barker knew he needed a totally different approach. And his solution was just brilliant in how simple it was. He used a newspaper to put out a call to the public. Mail me your premonitions before they happen. Every single letter that came in was date-stamped and filed away. For the very first time, someone was creating a real-time, uncontaminated record. This wasn't about belief, you see. It was about data, a scientific instrument to actually test the impossible. Okay, so letters started pouring in from all over the country. And yeah, most of them were pretty vague, easy to dismiss, but pretty quickly, a few individuals started to stand out. And these were just ordinary people at the center of this truly extraordinary story. Yeah, these weren't professional psychics or anything. You had people like Kathleen Middleton, a music teacher whose predictions came to her in these vivid, terrifying dreams. And then there was Alan Hencher, a telephone operator, who didn't really see images at all. He just felt it, like this overwhelming physical pressure, a gut feeling that something awful was about to happen. They weren't looking for fame. They were just looking for help. And their predictions were, well, disturbingly accurate. The Hither Green rail crash is a perfect example. In the days leading up to this crash that killed 49 people, Barker got multiple specific warnings about a rail disaster near London, including from his star subjects. And his files, date-stamped and logged, were the cold, hard proof. The predictions came first. Barker realized very quickly that for these people, this was not a gift. It was a terrible, terrible burden. Imagine knowing a tragedy is coming, but being completely unable to stop it, or even get anyone to take you seriously. They were carrying a weight that most of us just can't even fathom.
Okay, but hold on a second. We have to pump the brakes. Is this really happening, or is there a much more logical explanation? Any good investigation has to look at the other side, and believe me, the case for skepticism here is a powerful one.
So the first big hurdle is our own brain. There's this thing called confirmation bias. It basically means that if you're looking for a match between a vague prediction and a real event, you will find one. Our brains are pattern-matching machines, and they are brilliant at connecting the dots, even when there's no real line there.
And the skeptical arguments are really strong. I mean, think about it. Disasters happen. It's just a statistical fact. If you get hundreds of predictions, some of them are bound to match reality by pure chance. And we only ever hear about the shocking hits, right? What about the thousands of misses that got filed away? And was a dream of darkness and screaming really a premonition, or just a garden variety nightmare? All of these are valid points that Barker himself was struggling with. Now, Barker was totally aware of all these problems. He was trying to build a case, piece by piece. But then, the experiment took a turn that no scientific method could ever account for. The line between the observer and the subject just completely vanished. One day, a letter arrived from Kathleen Middleton, the music teacher, and she was deeply upset. Her vision wasn't about a plane crash or a flood. It was incredibly personal, focused entirely on a single individual. She had foreseen the death of Dr. John Barker. She wrote to him, filled with dread, to tell him that she believed his death was coming and coming soon. It wasn't just a vague feeling. It had that specific, chilling quality she now associated with her most accurate visions. And then, it got even stranger. Another one of his most reliable sources, completely independently, sent in a premonition that also pointed to Barker's impending death. This wasn't just one person's anxious dream anymore. This was a pattern. I mean, can you imagine? Barker was a man of science, sure, but he was also human. He was genuinely shaken by this. The very man who listened to so many people describe the anguish of foresight was now the subject of it. But with what you can only call chilling scientific integrity, he did his job. He took both letters, date-stamped them, and filed them away in his own archive. He was 48 years old. On August 19, 1968, well within the predicted time frame, Dr. John Barker dropped dead from a sudden brain hemorrhage. He was 48 years old. The man who built the instrument to test the future became its final, most extraordinary, and its most tragic piece of data. After Barker's death, the Bureau just faded away. His incredible work became a weird little footnote in history, the story almost completely forgotten. But the questions he raised are, if anything, more relevant today than they've ever been. And here's the final tragic twist. The Bureau's meticulously kept files, that entire unique archive of human foresight, were lost. Just think what we could do with that data today. With machine learning to find hidden patterns, with neuroscience to understand what's happening in the brain, could we finally figure this out? The mystery that John Barker literally died trying to solve is still out there, just waiting. It leaves you wondering about all those little hunches and strange coincidences in our own lives, doesn't it?